Hello everybody, John here, the Midnight Painted Body channel. In this video we're going to get back to work on the AMC Hornet 304 4-speed Levi's edition. So yeah, last video we started the teardown on this AMC Hornet. Not sure what year it is. I still have yet to ask the customer. He doesn't live in town here. I think it's a 74. Now it is a 304 4-speed. Someone mentioned in the comments last one that 74 it wouldn't have come with a 4-speed, so it might have been converted. I'm not sure. I mean, I like the comments. I like learning about this stuff, guys, and I know there's AMC guys out there that will correct me, and I say bring it on because I don't want to give you the wrong information. So I'm just going to tell you quickly about the Levi's edition. Now, I did say in the last video that they had denim inserts in the door panels and seats, but I guess they're not actually denim. Someone pointed out in the comments. So here's what I just found quickly on the internet. I'm going to read it from my phone because I can't remember stuff. So starting for 73 and running until the model's year end, customers could order seats of the pants for their AMC Gremlin or Hornet, covered in a material that mimicked the look of Levi's denim. The package came complete with metal buttons, copper-colored stitching, and a genuine Levi's tag. It also included color-coordinated door panels with real denim pockets, which this one has, special blue trim, and a Levi's logo on the fenders. Eventually, the Levi's interior made its way into AMC's Jeep division, where it showed up in Cherokees, J-Series trucks, and the iconic CJ line. It also made a one-year appearance in the 77 Pacer and 78 Concorde. AMX Jeeps used a slightly heavier material than the passenger cars and offered both blue and tan versions. Cars were blue only, except for 78. In the final year, customers could get their pants seats in blue, black, tan, or berry. So, a little more information on those guys. I just, yeah, I think this is a super cool car. So, now, back to the working on cars. So, if you didn't see the last one, I'll just show you real quick. So, customer's done a ton of work. It's a 304. It's all rebuilt. It's all fresh. He's kind of gone through everything. So yeah, 4-speed, like I said, don't know if that's factory, but I'm seeing that there's Robertson screws by the look of it holding the boot down, so that's not factory, but you can see some of the Levi's faux denim material, and there's the Levi buttons in the back seat, and the door panels are over there. They have it too. So last video I stripped this down, sandblasted everything, discovered that this left quarter panel is really bad. It's honestly, it's way worse than it looks in video because it's super stretched and super kinked and buckled and on top of being super rusty. So I believe I have parts coming. A fella from Arizona is sending a quarter panel. I believe the customer worked that out. The customer has a quarter panel for the other side already. Rocker panels I'm still figuring out, but I think I'm going to be able to use these slip-on Dodge rockers. So these are like 03 Dodge truck, and these are just the cheapy slip-ons, but that's good because that's kind of the shape we want. So that's not 100%, but I think that's what we're doing. So I figured I just, I'm in between jobs. I've got something else coming in tomorrow, but I have today free, so I want to get some more work done on this. Figured we'll start on one of the doors. So I'm going to pull the driver's door off, and let's assess it a little closer. Alright, well that sucks. The first couple of bolts just snapped off like butter when I put a wrench to them. one in the bottom, 2 in the top, so I should be able to get those plates out of the inside. So, see, I put a whole bunch of heat to them to get the other ones out, so that worked. So let's get this on a stand and have a closer look. So there's a nice surprise. That's different than most of the stuff I ever work on. These doors are beautiful. That is awesome. There's some rust we have to take care of on the outside skin, but usually everything I work on I have to rebuild all of this, so that is great news. Man, I am thrilled with that. I never see stuff like that, especially on an old car in this country. Far out. Yeah, I'll get this stripped and we'll look again. So even when you quite possibly aren't reusing the parts, I would imagine he's going to get new weather stripping if he can. I still bag and tag everything. Never ever throw anything away until the car is put back together. Here's the important piece here. There's one little retainer and one little screw for that weather strip. That'll go in the bag with it. I'll tape that up and mark it. So this is some nice easy metal work to get going because our inner is so solid. All we have to worry about is this outer skin. So I'm just going to cut this bad piece out and then we'll transfer it onto a new piece of sheet metal and make a piece for it. So I just went and transferred that onto a new piece of tin. Shaped it a little bit on the edge of the door. Just a little bit of trimming back. And we'll burn it in there. So there's our first little patch welded in. So pretty straightforward, basic sheet metal stuff. So I'm not going to body work anything on these until I completely sandblast the inside of the doors to make sure there's nothing else that needs to be welded up. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop the passenger door off and see what we need to do on that one. And here's a look at our passenger door. So it is just as nice inside. This one's got a little rust through at the back and a little bit at the front. So all along the bottom is good. I'm not seeing any other perforations. So I'm going to basically do on this door what I did on that door, just make a patch at the front, patch at the back. Well, that's the back. Patch at the back, patch at the front. So I won't bother recording that, guys, because it's more of the same. but I'll bring you back when we move on to something else. So here's our passenger side door welded up. So this one was pretty easy, just a piece in the back and a piece in the front. Same as we did on the other one, and there's a couple spots. So the rest of this door is in really good shape. So I've still got a couple hours of day left. So I might grab one of those fenders and start going over it, see what we can come up with. Well, I'm back on the Hornet here, guys. I don't remember where we left off, to be honest. I know we were working on the doors, got the metal work pretty much done on the doors. I think I started on the fenders, but it's been a couple of weeks. I've been going hard on other projects as usual, filming in several different places as usual, but look what we have here. So if you remember the first video on this car, we were in dire need of a driver quarter panel. So let's start with that. So I actually joined an AMC Facebook page and put out some feelers, and there's a fella in Arizona that deals with AMC parts. And I didn't do the dealing on it, I just set my customer up with the guy, but customer purchased this quarter panel all the way from Arizona. So it's not perfect. Got a few dings, which I don't care about. Let's see, it's swollen a bit here, so it's definitely rusted through here. But that is so minor compared to what we have to deal with on the other one. Yeah, the lip all seen, yeah, it's not swollen at all. That lip is good, so yeah, for a 74, 40, 50-year-old car, you just can't beat it. I know the customer had told me that he had the passenger side quarter panel already, so he bought this a while back. I think he said it came out of New York or something. But look at this. That is an NOS, new old stock, OEM quarter panel. That is not a reproduction, that is an AMC part. So that is frickin' cool. Just unreal that someone still had that. And the funny thing is, there was a dude on the AMC page who also had a new old stock OEM quarter panel for the right that he was willing to sell, but I needed the left and I knew the customer had the right. So while this quarter doesn't look bad, you know, by the time we repair that and that and that, much nicer job to put a quarter panel on. So I think we'll probably start with the easy side. Let's do the passenger side first. So yeah, I'll just get this little bit of interior stuff out of the way. I am gonna gut what's left of this interior, but I think we'll just start with kind of what we need to get off for now. And I think we're gonna start cutting the quarter panel off this thing. So I'm gonna start with basically just cutting out the bulk of the quarter panel. We'll just kind of cut around the edges, and then we'll come back and take off all our kind of flanges and trim around all the edges. So first glance, this car is solid. Now, a customer was here on the weekend and he was telling me that actually his brother bought this car brand new. Bought it in 74, parked it in 88. So that explains why it's still in pretty decent shape. You know, the rust hasn't gotten to it too terribly. But our wheelhouses are okay, but we are all rotted here. This one, we can just make a piece for that before putting the quarter panel on. Now, our used one came with a complete wheelhouse, so that's nice. So, but now, oh yeah, and there's the other thing. The dropouts are perfect, which is amazing. You know, the worst of the rust on this quarter was all along here, but you can see that's where there's this trough in here. This was right packed full of dirt and stuff, so you know, the dirt, everything accumulates in there, sits in there, and that's what causes rust. So now this is how the quarter panel is welded on here, so it's spot welded from the inside. So we'll take that flange off, we'll take this flange off that wraps around, so it's just that little bit there. We'll drill out these spot welds here, cutting right around there, and then the same in here. We're going to go right in, replace this whole trough and this whole back corner, because that's all part of our OEM quarter panel. So that is going to make a nice job of this. So I'm just going to carry on and start taking a bunch of these flanges off, and then we'll get a better look and see what we've got. Rocker panels I've got, I don't know if I showed you guys already, so those are actually like 03 Dodge slip-on rocker panels. They seem to fit the shape pretty good, so I'm hoping we can use those, because these rockers are super rusty. They look okay, but when you get up close, they're full of pinholes. So probably we'll do the rocker before putting the quarter on. Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to take too much structure out of here. I probably will support the center of the car if I am going to start cutting the rockers. And there should be enough structure in this thing, it shouldn't matter. But we don't want to risk this thing toppling a little bit. And of course, I'll put the door back on before final welding anything. But I do need to get some pins and bushings still. To make sure the doors are fitting properly before we fit everything else up properly. So I'm going to continue on and I'll bring you guys back in a bit. So moving along a bit here, I've been taking off a bunch of the remaining pieces of the quarter panel. I've got most of it off, still doing cleanup. So this area here, I've ground this off and exposed the factory lead seam. So we're just going to take some heat and see if we can get rid of the old lead out of there. Now these drip rail moldings, they should be tin. They are beat up. You can't really take these off without ruining them, and I don't know if there's new ones available, so I'm just going to be careful, leave those on there. So now, as you can see, we've exposed the spot welds where the quarter panel was put on from the factory. And of course, being that this is a factory OEM quarter panel, we're going to be putting it on exactly the same way. Well, I decided to switch gears a little bit there for a little while and pull the interior out of this thing, because I'm going to want all of that out of there before I do any welding. But look at the floor in this car. Unbelievable. There is no rust, none. It is amazing. Look at even these little hold downs and screws for the wiring. Like, it's unbelievably clean. So that's a nice surprise. I mean, looking at it from underneath, I didn't think I was going to have rust repair, but I figured I'd have to clean up and treat the inside of the floor, but man, it doesn't need anything. That's awesome. So, yeah, I've been just kind of continuing on a little bit of cleanup, but getting close to the end of the day, so I've got something else I need to do for a little bit, but we'll get back to this thing tomorrow. Well, it's the next morning here, everyone, so I'm just kind of picking away at the Hornet here. I thought I would do just a rough test fit of this quarter panel, so we're nowhere near in place, but I mean, we're in the ballpark. So some more trimming and fitting. So I need to get this right around the back side of this panel, but I can't do that because actually this flange in the quarter goes in between this back panel and the dropout. So I might trim it off and just fit it and tack weld it, but we'll see what's going to be the best way to do it. I am going to have to cut out this back panel anyway. As you can see, it's all rusted through here, but that's not a big deal. And I knew this quarter panel had some damage, but it's actually a lot more tweaked than I realized. You can see it's got a big fold here and a buckle here, so that's kind of throwing everything off. So I'll pull it off and hammer it out. It's honestly not a big thing. I would still rather have a damaged OEM quarter panel than repairing all the rust that was in that other one. Just got a bit of whammo there too, but again, not a big deal. So, yeah, I figured I would just kind of rough fit that, but I think I might start messing around with this rocker panel and see what I'm going to be able to come up with. Now I've figured out that my Dodge rockers are actually, if it didn't have the second light body line there, these would actually be damn near perfect the way they wrap around at the bottom. So I might trim that top off and I'll see if I can straighten that. Now obviously I don't have a brake big enough. I might be able to do it with the plenishing hammer, or honestly just on the block with a hammer. I'll figure out the best way to do that. Oh, I don't want to lose that. That's the AMC tag off of that quarter panel. Anyway, yeah, I'll keep picking away and I'll bring you guys back as I make a little progress. So I've reshaped our Dodge rocker a little bit. Still need to fine tune it a bit, but I basically hammered it out. So this is going to work well. This is fitting our bottom shape nicely. So yeah, we've got pretty much that identical shape underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this old rocker out. Now I think I'm going to cut round about there. Now you can see these molding holes have been all brazed up at some point, so we don't want to be hitting brass when we're welding, but so I'll cut that part out. Get my tape to work. Oh, come on. Okay, apparently there's something on the edge of my roll of tape. Let's try that a little slower. So I'm just going to cut along that top line. We're going to leave that little bit of a flange of the original rocker, and that's what we'll be welding to with our new piece. Alright, so there's a little bit of a look inside. So, as you can see, I mean, those rockers didn't look too bad, but you can see what's going on the inside. It is super thin. You can see we're rusted through all along there. This one's pretty much rusted through the entire bottom. That quarter panel was the same way. I've already thrown it away. I've actually been posting the progress of this on a AMC Facebook page, and a lot of guys were commenting, hey, that quarter panel looked pretty good. But it did, it looked pretty good until you got up close. But I don't know if I must have showed it at the beginning of the video, but it was rusted through all the way along the bottom and around the lip and behind the wheel. So, and then this, I mean, that all came out of that rocker, and there's still probably that much dirt again. So that is what rusts cars up. All that dirt sits in there, it stays wet. I don't know how the hell some critter got acorns in there, but a pretty good hiding place. Yeah, look at that, it's full of some kind of bird seed or something. So, yeah, the critters have been making their home in there for sure. And now you see I kind of was looking because I thought there might be supports in there. I didn't want to cut through those, so I still need to do a bunch more trimming. You know, the other thing, like all cars, trucks, whatever you're working on, they always have these access plugs. Everything has them. So you see there's a black plug right there. There it is on the inside. If a guy was to pull those out and, you know, shoot your garden hose inside there, clean all that crap out until it's, you know, running out, would probably make these cars longer. Of course, we never think to actually do that, but with all the rust repair I do, I always see ways that it could have been prevented. So I'm going to continue trimming, and now we can really see how smashed up this was here, or is. So I'll continue to get this flange off. I need to drill out all the spot welds, and then we'll pull that down so it's all straight before fitting up our new piece. Well, I got our rocker panel all trimmed up for the most part, and unfortunately our inner rocker is pretty rusty, mostly where it was bent up, so that makes sense. But if you look along here, you can see there's holes all the way back to here. Just surprising. Normally the worst of the rust is at the back, not the front. But the rest all seems pretty solid. So, gonna have to rebuild that inner rocker. That's not a big deal. I'll make a piece for that easy enough. But I think I'm gonna continue on fitting up the piece we're making for the outer. So we'll get that to where it fits the car. And then I'll move on to making the inner piece. So I'm going to pop this quarter panel back off of here. It's just sitting in place with one clamp, and continue on with that a bit. So I have roughly trimmed up our 2003 Dodge rocker panels, and they're going to work fantastic. So they're just loosely trimmed. They're not where they're going to live by any means, but these are going to work awesome. So I'll just need to trim this down. We'll probably try and trim it to where we can just butt match right to that original lip, so it'll just be edge to edge. And then down here we'll just drill and plug weld to that lower flange like it was from the factory. And we have to rebuild all of that inner first, but I'm going to keep making this piece until I'm happy with where it fits, and then we'll move on to rebuilding the inside. there's our rocker all welded on. Not much to it. I basically just trimmed this back until I had a nice butt match to the original sheet metal, so I wasn't overlapping anything there. I need to finish welding this part of the seam, but I gotta take the quarter panel back off before I do that. So I'm just gonna clean up these welds a bit, and then probably pop that quarter panel off and start rebuilding that wheelhouse. Well, I'm back on the Hornet here this morning. So I started rebuilding our wheelhouse. Now this is a little tricky because you don't know exactly where things need to be without having a quarter panel on, but with quarter panel on you can't really access this to do a nice repair. So somebody was asking on my social media about some posts I made about rebuilding the inner rocker. I didn't really show any of that because it was just pretty simple stuff. So I figured I should show some of this. So what I've started with, now I made a cardboard template CAD design, cardboard aided design. So I've recreated this wheel lip. I've fit it to the new quarter panel to make sure my shape is bang on. And I know that this needs to sit about a half an inch away down there, so I can basically have that in place. And then I've taken a piece of sheet metal, keeping it numbers matching AMC. This is actually a chunk I cut out of the old quarter panel because I'm out of new 20 gauge sheet metal. I've got some, but I didn't have a big enough piece, so I need to pick some of that up. But I've started kind of shaping this, so this piece is going to fit right around there. Go to the inside, so you can see we're not even close. But the way this is going to have to be, going to have to do some kind of pie cuts through here and fold this in, so we kind of recreate that rounded shape. So it's going to be finicky, it's going to take some messing around. I'm going to attach this just with some self-tappers and start kind of working it. I mean, I've got a lot of excess on here too, so once it's folded in, I've got to trim a lot off of here. This is way too big, but better to start with too big of a piece than too small. So I'm going to throw that on with some self-tappers and we'll start trying to come up with something. So here is our beautifully handcrafted piece, guys. So here's the thing. Yeah, it's a little bit butch, but it's going to do the job. Now, one of the things you really have to consider with this kind of stuff. So in my shop, you know, this took about an hour and a half to make. 75 bucks an hour is my shop rate. These jobs are all hourly. That's the only way you can do them. maybe you can afford to go to one of those high-end hot rod shops that's, you know, maybe 150 an hour, and they might spend 6 hours making an absolutely perfect, beautiful, flawless piece. That's great if you're that guy. My customers are mostly working guys like all of us. No one is ever going to see this again. Once it's welded in, it's got a quarter panel on it. So what I will do with this piece, now I don't even know for sure that our quarter panel is going to fit properly over it, so I need to put the quarter on again. I'm pretty confident, I'm sure we're going to be okay, and actually I can fit this to the quarter panel as well. But what I will do with this is kind of get it in place. I'll get the quarter panel back on. I'll probably tack this from the inside, but then I'm going to cut. I'll do like a cut and butt. I'm going to zip through this piece of metal and the original metal so that I'm going to be edge to edge, just to butt weld, so without overlapping the metal. So once this goes in for good, it'll trim there, this will be trimmed off, and yeah, there will be no overlapped metal like I have there. That was just to fasten it to make the piece. So there you are. It's not that bad. It's a little butch, but it's good, it's solid, it's going to do the job, and it's completely gone once it's welded together. So, well, the quarter panel is back off the car, obviously, and I am ready to actually just coat all these inners. So here's the piece we made. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super pretty because no one is ever going to see it again. So all of this I am just going to brush paint with some rust preventative paint, just like I did the inside of the rocker. I just like to seal everything up before putting the new panel over top. And of course, like I've get my camera to stand up. Hold on. And so like I've probably said before on this kind of stuff, I mean, every job is different. I mean, you might have the body completely off of all the chassis and everything and completely sandblasted and prime and paint all the inners, but I find that, I mean, this has lasted 50 years. So I'm just going to seal it up with something to hold back any further rust, and it will last another 50 years or more, because something else I always say, these cars don't see bad weather anymore once they're all redone. So now the areas that I will be welding to, I'm not going to brush paint over those. That's going to be kept bare metal. Before I put the new panel on, that will get weld through primer on it. You just don't want to put this paint on there and then have to clean it back off to weld, because it's kind of a bugger to grind back off, because it's pretty good stuff. So back on the Hornet again here this morning. So we're ready to put the quarter panel on the car for good. So I have gone around, prepped the quarter, just punched holes through all these flanges that we're going to be plug welding, along here, along there, around the wheel opening, along the bottom. So now it's just a matter of wrestling this thing back into place one more time and fit the door, and then we can burn it on. So I have got the quarter panel back in place. Now at this point, it is where it's going to be welded. I've got it held on in a whole bunch of places with some self-tapping screws. So yeah, just kind of a few everywhere, but all these spots need to be welded. This gets done from the inside, on the bottom, around the wheel opening. This lip here gets done from the inside of the panel down in there. You can see I've got holes for plug welding. And of course down the door opening. So there will be some kind of fine tuning of the fit as I move along with welding, but for the most part it's, yeah, I'm just ready to completely burn on. Now the door pins are super worn out in this car, which I was gonna get some and rebuild those hinges before so I could have the doors fitting proper, but I've just kind of got a clamp on there holding the door up because the hinges are so bad. But then that's fine because I've got the door in place where it needs to be. Actually, if anything, just a hair high, but it doesn't matter because I know it's going to fit. I know our gap is good. We can fine tune everything after. So I'm going to fire up the welder and start putting this thing into its forever home. So let's get welding. So there's our first quarter panel, our right side quarter panel, fully welded in place. So yeah, a couple welds along the back, along the bottom, all the way up our trough inside here. There's actually a little bit of welding I have left where I have it clamped inside there. I actually forgot about that spot. I just need to put 2 plug welds there. And just need to finish up this trough a little bit. But other than that, we are all welded. Down here, if you can see in there, it's probably dark, but there's the plug welds along the inside bottom lip of the quarter panel. And of course, along the bottom and all the way around the wheel opening. So, with that out of the way, I think, guys, I am just going to end this video here. When we get started on the next one, we'll start separating this used quarter panel from the structure. And I'll kind of take you along on what's going to be involved in salvaging a used part. I mean, it's a lot of work because essentially you're kind of doing a job twice with a used quarter like that, but it is definitely our best option to get rid of this completely pooched one on this side of the car. And then we've got a good inner and everything too, so if this wheelhouse is rusted, which I know it is because I can see right through, we can use that wheelhouse or a part of it, whatever we need to do. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you come back and check out the next one.